Hi there, and welcome to the first ever Freak the Geek video. You name a Hollywood movie, and I'll explain how it was influenced by Alfred Hitchcock. In our first edition, we're giving you a twofer. First, patron Ben Forsberg tossed me what he called a softball. What influence, if any, did Hitchcock have on Jurassic Park? Then, right after that, as if they'd been planning it all along, patron Vern Lindner suggested that I ask the same thing of Jaws. Both movies are what's known in the biz as creature features, a genre that had been around for years, but which Hitchcock completely reinvented with The Birds. Also, movie nerds will know right off the bat that both films were directed by Steven Spielberg. So we're going to take the conversation up one level. Let's talk about Spielberg's personal connection to Hitchcock. So actually, it's an anti-connection. When Spielberg was a teenager, he had some ingenious methods for dropping into movie productions in Hollywood like it was no big deal.
Did you see any filmmakers that you admired?
Hitchcock, but I got thrown off that set very quickly. I was on the Torn Curtain set for about 10 minutes before someone came and told me to leave.
Did you get to see him?
I got to see Hitchcock and Julie Andrews, but I was on the Phantom of the Opera stage. They were far away, and I had just come through an entrance. I was at the back of the theater. There were 500 extras in the seats. That's when an AD or a second, maybe even a third AD, got kicked off by a third AD.
So they said, show me your papers? Or
just said, why are you here? And I said, I'm just here to watch. And they said, well, no, this is a closed set, and that was the end of it.
He never did meet Hitch, but he'd always been a Hitchcock geek. For example, did you know one of Spielberg's first directing jobs was on the very first episode of Columbo, titled Murder by the Book? Hitchcock's fingerprints are all over that show, and Spielberg's approach to that episode in particular runs so deep I'll have to devote a future installment of Freak the Geek just to that. But for now, let's enjoy the composition and virtuosity of this long opening take. Anyway, to answer your question, Ben, when Spielberg made Jurassic Park in 1993, Hitchcock was still very much on his mind. First, the obvious. The pacing between the two films is very similar. Very slowly, gradually, the birds take their time emerging as a presence, while other matters like romance and personal intrigue occupy the first half of the movie. That slow pace actually hurt the birds at the box office, but it became the template for countless monster movies afterward, notably Jurassic Park, which also builds gradually. As with The Birds and Psycho, a clear view of the monsters, dinosaurs in this case, is withheld from us until much later in the film. That approach is pure Hitchcock. It's like horror master Roger Corman said, Hitchcock's importance to me, personally, is exemplified by the way he reveals his monsters. Whether they be birds or a man dressed as his mother, Hitchcock never lets the audience see the entirety of the monster until the end of the film. That slow burn is now basically a defining characteristic of monster movies. And if Hitch didn't technically do it first, you could say he did it best, inspiring hordes of filmmakers after him. The Birds broke a lot of ground in terms of special effects. The challenges Hitchcock and his team solved in The Birds laid the groundwork for Star Wars, and later Jurassic Park. Other touches in that movie struck me as very Hitchcockian, in more subtle ways. For instance, there's the occasion where the scientists, entrepreneurs, and lawyer dine on Chilean sea bass and debate the ethics and morals of bringing dinosaurs to life.
Gee, the lack of humility before nature that's being displayed here staggers me.
That moment recalls the Birds' cafe scene, in which a microcosm of characters have a philosophical debate about the relationship between humans and birds, while ordering combo baskets of fried chicken.
Birds have been on this planet, Miss Daniels, since Archaeopteryx, 140 million years ago. Doesn't it seem odd that they'd wait all that time to start a war against humanity?
When Grant and Tim are chased down the tree by that SUV, it's as surreal as the crop duster scene from North by Northwest, and both are resolved with goofy bit right out of Buster Keaton. And both films definitely have this message.
I bet you never look at birds the same way again.
Alright, so much for Jurassic Park. When I come back for part 2, let's talk about all the cool Hitchcock connections to Spielberg's breakout film, Jaws.